and replace it with activities. Transition activities. This is not the grid in section 13 that defines special education and related services. This is much broader. This is what's everybody doing to help the student move toward the post-secondary goals. What's special ed doing? Certainly. And if there are any direct related services, they must link to the post-secondary goals as well. But what are the general ed teachers doing? Like in this case, I would like to see a transition service provided by the reading interventionist or the reading teacher or whoever is actually doing that reading, because we've seen that as that strong thread. What are the parents doing? Maybe the parents are taking him to visit with the military recruiter. What's the guidance counselor doing? Maybe the counselor is going to make sure he gets scheduled for that ASVAB. What's the PE teacher doing? Maybe the PE teacher is going to help him physically so that he will be able to meet that side of the military requirements. So when we think about transition services, you're thinking about the entire community of adults, general ed as well as special ed, okay? And the way we prefer to see these written is the adult, the provider of the service, by title, never name. You can name who is given an assessment. That's a fact that's happened in the past. But you don't want to commit a name to providing a service, because if that person goes on maternity leave and somebody else comes in, that trips the need for a new IEP. So you don't mention my name here, but my title. And we really prefer that you avoid the generic staff will, school will. Think about me as the parent. If the transition service says, you know, the school will provide individualized reading instruction with an emphasis on comprehension, and I'm the mom, I call up and say, hello, may I please speak with school? Well, who in the school do you want to speak with? Well, gee, my IEP says school. Be specific by title, never name. And it's always what the community of adults is doing. Here's your linkage to the annual goals. If you think of it this way, the annual goal is, what is the student expected to master this year, and why is it so important? That's the linkage of the annual goal back to the post-secondary goal. And then we're able to say to the student, the good news is, you don't have to do it alone, because your case manager is going to do this, your mom is going to do this, the English teacher is going to do this. The services are what the adults are going to do to help the student truly master the annual goals so that he or she can realistically move toward the post-secondary goals, right? Also in transition services, this is not where you document what everybody gets. There's no point in documenting what everybody gets. This is also not where you say that, you know, you'll provide accommodations. That's not a transition service. Even preschoolers with IEPs get their accommodations. But if you think about it from a transition IEP perspective, the accommodation might be that a way to bring in an accommodation piece is, instead of saying that the teacher will provide the accommodation, which is not a compliant transition service, that is an IEP requirement. But if you say instead that the case manager will provide direct instruction, modeling, and practice in helping the student self-advocate for his own accommodations, now that's a really good transition service. That's much more empowering for the student. Okay? Also specific. If you simply say the case manager will provide support in all academic classes, what does that mean? I have no idea. How would you know if it ever happened? It must be spelled out a little bit more specifically. So you could say the case manager will provide support in all academic classes to include daily review of the homework log, you know, whatever. Another reason why you want to avoid being too vague is this is where a lot of parental complaints come from.